chapter clicked in to College Volleyball Weekly on Viral Volley Media. Now here's your host, Rob on mic.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to College Volleyball Weekly Men's Top 20. And we are in our Week 6 recap and Week 7 preview. We've got three of the four important people who have come back. We've kind of lost one of them, but that's Theo Edwards of CSUN, Jay Hossick of George Mason, and Brad Rothschild are coming off an off week yet again for UC San Diego. And missing in a very important meeting is Dan Friend of Lewis. So let's start off with our social media shout outs first. And kind of hard to pick a couple here this week, but got to give a shout out to Off the Block blog. Vinny's been doing this thing now since I think it's 2011, if I remember correctly. So he reports on it and he's been posting again. So be sure to check out his stuff at Off the Block blog. And someone that I come across quite a bit is a family. It's Jay, Rachel, and Noah Zapanta, or they're at JRochZ on Instagram. And they've been posting a lot of the Southern California indoor men's, but I see them at a lot of beach events. So, and they're doing some great work and putting some great videos together. So a shout out for you guys getting the content out there. Truly appreciate it, and some really masterful work. So
Vinny is one of the OGs. He's been doing it for a long time. You know, now he's got his own family to worry about. He's got a job he's got to worry about. And this guy still puts out as much information as he can and all the links for all the families and people that want to see the matches. Vinny is a stalwart. So much kudos and love to that guy.
excellent. Anything else, gentlemen, on our social media shout outs you're familiar with? They want to
I
comment
don't know
on?
if we've given them some love, but the volleyball recap with Izzy,
Yeah,
someone who's just
that was it
been
last week. The
okay.
missing coach show.
Okay. Yeah. I thought a couple of things there. Like one, obviously the consistency and keeping the results updated, but really the high level of the graphics, man. Like I know he must be pulling photos off of university websites and things of that nature, but some of the graphics that he's using to show set scores and a lot of the visuals have been really, really high level. So shout outs to him, man. Big time.
I'm gonna give a little love out to the Houligans and the coaches corner that they put out. The great thing about them before and continue still, but the great thing about them is that they don't really have any guardrails that they have to worry about. So they get a little bit more salty or crusty is the wrong terminology, but they're definitely a little bit more free thinking with some of their comments, which I appreciate greatly. The great thing, or the ironic thing is that now that Matt Houlihan is an assistant coach at Stanford, if you watch their last show, he's saying like, now I got to be a little bit more politically correct. I can't just go off and say the things that I'm thinking. And I find it funny because all of us, probably have our own opinions and maybe a little bit salt here and there that we could throw around with some things. But it's a different world when you work in the world, and you have to be able to, you know, dance around some things because you don't want to, put anybody in the lurch, so to speak. It becomes a little bit of a dicier game, but they do a great job. And they have Daniel Rasai on there. That is a coach, obviously, at Beta Bay, and he has some keen insight. And they all just do a really good job of putting content out there, and want to give them some love. So
Great call there. I was joking with Matt when I saw him the week of the First Point Collegiate Challenge, that Monday or Tuesday afterwards. He's named as the interim. And I was thinking, Matt, you're going to have to tone it back. It's got to be family friendly now.
yeah, a little harder to do sometimes. But congrats to Matt on getting the job at Stanford. Hopefully, if he wants to stay, and they'll ask him to stay more permanently, it'd be awesome. So good for him.
Definitely.
Well, I
I was
thought
wondering why. Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Rob. I
I
was
was just saying,
wondering why he I don't know if there was a delay or what's going on. My bad, man. But I was wondering why he had hired a media person from the Philippines to cover some of the stuff. And then when he got the job, I texted him like, "Oh, okay. You don't want to take that heat on by yourself. Okay, got it."
Well, I know that when he is at Phoenix, you know, obviously the power volley couple in digital media is he and his wife Ariel, and just want to say hi to Ariel, who has great content as well. I may have startled her. I don't think she's seen me in person like in 4 years, so uh, I kind of scared her. Hi, how's it going? All coming on strong. I apologize. I'm not a creeper, but but I saw
Rob,
Matt
you're
and
very frightening. Yes.
I know I have that. It's that brown skin that threatens people, right? I got to get. I can't go surfing as often, so I look dark. Um, with that, let's go into our elephant in the room. I'm going to start with Brad because he has nothing, right? You can talk about your
Yeah,
week off.
the week off was needed. We've played a lot of volleyball through all of January with two travel trips within January to the Midwest and to BYU. So yeah, definitely much needed for the guys and for the team to get a week to just practice and get a weekend off completely as well. But it was kind of nice. Just got to kind of watch some different volleyball and check in on some things, and kind of get caught up and get ready for the next grind ahead here as we jump back into it. But I think kind of it was fun to see Lindenwood, and obviously Dan's not here, but seeing them go win two big matches. And then the UCLA Long Beach matchup was another great set of volleyball and like back and forth competitively. Um, Definitely preseason and early on the year volleyball, but all in all was entertaining at the Pyramid.
Oh, so you actually went to the match, huh?
No, 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 no.
Oh,
He's not allowed to
Just
do that,
watched at
Rob.
home.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's against the rules.
Yeah, with
No,
a
I would
baby.
not. Yeah, I was home.
All right. Well, let's jump over to Dan so we can talk about his back since you kind of mentioned it already. Dan had a tough week, but McKendry and Lindenwood came in, and his Flyers kind of fell short. So we'll just go with that because we're going to talk results. Then I'm going to go back to, well, it's one of my highlighted matches I want to bounce off you guys this week too. So and it's one of another big topic. So I want to go to Jay, who's back to winning ways. So Jay, step on it.
Yeah, it was. It's nice to be above 500. We played some pretty big teams and had some matches that we felt pretty good about. It went into this last weekend against a really good Manhattan team. If you're not paying attention, it's a first year program. Their coach Chris Shorkin is doing a really nice job of bringing that program along. They had some transfers come in, and they're really good. They got a few guys that can bring a lot of heat, not only from the service line but from their attack as well. And we knew it wasn't going to be an easy weekend. They came in with some heat and a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, but a fun program to play. They're super scrappy. They run a good offense. We went away on the weekend 2-0. We had the weekend prior, we go up against Mount Olive, which we beat in 4-3. And then we played a double header, which is really rare for us, but we had to because of the weather that was coming through, and Mount Olive couldn't stay for the extra match. So we played UMES on Saturday, and then we played Ball State immediately afterwards, back to back. Luckily, we were able to put our B team in against UMES, not because we felt that they deserved only our B team, but because we knew we had two matches and we had to save everybody as much as we could. Was playing back to back is not beneficial to anybody. And we ended up beating UMES in 4, which was good. Our B side got a lot of play. And then we went up against Ball State, and in the first set, we're up 24-22 and ended up going extra innings, had 5 set points during that strand, and felt good about our performance. Unfortunately, just didn't have the gas in order to finish it. But we really liked what we were doing, and we're starting to put some things together and finding a lineup that works for us. And just getting ready for conference play coming up. I felt really good about our performance this last couple of weekends, and it's about time we start figuring it out. So
Excellent. Anyone I want to comment on Jay's 4 matches of the week?
5.
5. Sorry, my math's a little off here.
Yeah, I think the piece that is always really interesting is anytime a team can play their second group and play their second group, but also get a W. I think we've talked about it on the show, but it's becoming more and more rare, right? In order to do that, and but I think the other thing is, there's a lot of teams that have had really tough schedules, especially in the start of the year. That's made it really difficult to understand the level in which a lot of these teams are capable of playing at. And I think George Mason getting back on the win train is no surprise to those who know what's going on. Jay's doing a fantastic job over there, so it's a great week for them.
Excellent. Anything else on the mighty Patriots of George Mason?
That's a lot of volleyball. A lot of volleyball.
Uh, with that, let us go over to the mighty Theophytes or the Matadors of Cal State Northridge. I'll let you talk about your result because you had a tough week there, Theo. I mean, some of the top teams in the nation you're going up against.
Yeah, no, we were super excited coming into this week. Kind of have been bouncing around. We were on the road at Santa Barbara. We went to Missouri, and it was nice to kind of get home and start to play some of the competition that I think we're most used to. And obviously, we started off at USC, and we're just shy of a reverse sweep. Ended up losing the fifth, 15-13, but just some really, really great volleyball being played. I think it took us a little bit to get adjusted. They have two 7-foot middles. Parker Tompkinson was back in the lineup for them. And they contained our middle attack a little bit, needless to say. And that was a new piece for us. And so I think for our team, kind of learning to adjust on the fly. And in set 3 and 4, Jordan Lucas really came to life against those guys. Ended up having 30 kills and one hell of a performance. I think he hit 509 on 53 swings, which is a performance we haven't had on the left in quite some time. And so super incredibly proud of him. And just in general, I thought our team played really well, stepped up, made some adjustments on the fly, and did some things in the scout. We're able to execute at a pretty high level. Just a couple of serves, a couple of reception errors in that fifth set that ended up kind of being the difference. But we saw blood for sure, and then turned around and 2 days later, and if you're in our camp, but we're dealing with some injuries, and the second match in the week has been pretty tough for us. And essentially, we played Pepperdine. Pepperdine came in and did some really, really nice things. I think Cole Harkey had probably one of his best performances in his very short career. But we had no answers for him. He was pretty much over the top of us all night and hitting the edges of the court, the end line, the sidelines. I mean, just really did some nice things moving the ball around, and we just weren't able to catch up. And I thought their setter was really phenomenal. Andre, I think Polamac is his last name.
Yeah.
Did some really, really, really nice things and was running a nice offense, but really from the service line, probably had one of his better nights. He was able to string in 5, 6, 7 really, really tough serves in a row. That opened up some big gaps in each one of the sets and kind of ended up being the difference for us. But I was proud of the guys, man. I thought for our new guys, I think we have 3 guys that haven't played that have been in the lineup, and they did some really, really nice things and put us in positions to learn and to get better. And so all in all, I thought it was a great week, even though we didn't pull away with the W's.
Excellent. All right, panel, open up for discussion. Theo's matches.
Yeah, you got to give hats off to Jordan Lucas. Kid had a phenomenal night against USC with 30 kills hitting 509. And the next match against Pepperdine, he had 7 kills. He was second highest on the team and hit 333. So the kid hit 420 with 37 kills on the weekend. That's a phenomenal performance for a kid who everybody remembers from Grand Canyon and was a libero, and the kid comes in and just figures out a way to get on the court, and the next thing you know, he's having a night. And the challenge that we always say to our guys is, it's easier to fly under the radar when nobody knows who you are and what you do and what your tendencies are. The real trick is when everybody starts to know you and see your scouting, see your videos, and they put together a scouting report on you. Can you sustain that and maintain that level? It'll be interesting to see how he goes about that, because it's new territory for him, right? He's a relatively newcomer to the outside hitter position in terms of playing time, not necessarily in terms of his career, but in terms of playing time. Now he's going to have some people watching him. But man, the kid just had a great weekend. And when you go up against a team like USC at home, and then now have their 2 giant middles being able to play again, Tompkinson, is a great middle, and they're going to start firing again on all cylinders, and they're going to be a dangerous team down the line. But Northridge, there's no loss of fight in that team, and the Northridge pep matches of old, they're historically a lot of fun to be a part of because a lot of those kids grew up playing club together, and it's just a really neat atmosphere to be a part of. But I'm sure Theo is going to be in a good position come towards the end of the year, and I wouldn't mind seeing them play again later on.
All right, entering the chat room, Dan Fran of Lewis, and we already talked about your team behind your back, so we may come back to you. But let's finish the discussion of Theo's week.
Uh, yeah,
Anything
I
to
thought
add,
it
Brad?
was very interesting just to see Northridge out hit USC night one. And then obviously there's been a lot of comparison between USC and Pepperdine and kind of the rankings and where they're at being so close to each other to see Northridge out hit USC and then Pepperdine go out and out hit by quite a good margin Northridge, which and from the bits I saw seemed to be a large impact due to Pepperdine serving, really getting Northridge off the net because Northridge has three really good passers now with Zhao, Jordan Lucas, and Carnizes at libero as well. So that's a impressive serving performance to that. And then you pair that with Hartke hitting, I don't know, somewhere above 500 and 19 swings, 13 kills or so. Uh, is a really, really good showing from a guy that I think every weekend we're saying is having his best performance of the year.
Yeah, he had
All right.
667, Brad. I don't really recall. 14 kills on 18 swings. Decent performance.
All right, Dan, here's your chance.
I've seen that personally myself, just so you know, too.
As we would call that in the business, that's slightly above
Well,
average.
and I gotta give some credit to Jonathan Winder because obviously Grant has been in the lineup for the most of the year, and they decided to go away from him, and it really paid off. Jose Gomez did a phenomenal job in terms of serve receive and kept them in system quite a bit more than Grant has been able to, and yeah, and it paid off for them big time. I mean, they were able to put a ton of pressure on us that
Yep.
we hadn't seen prior.
All right, Dan. Anything to add on to Theo's plight last week?
No, keep plugging away, baby. You and me, all of us.
All right. All right. Dan's ready to offer himself up on the table of this last week of MIVA results. So we'll just give you the headline we had, but 0-2, McKendree and Lindenwood. But, it actually is going to lead into one of the topics I have later. But talk about your week against the two teams, Dan.
Well, two great teams that are playing pretty good volleyball. Do you know what I mean? I think we know McKendree's good, and I thought we competed well for the most part against them, and just weren't very good in the red zone. And I thought they were cleaner in the red zone, and so that was kind of that match. And that happened pretty much the first two games, and they actually had a big lead the third, and we found a way to come back a little bit. But and then Lindenwood, yeah, I mean Lindenwood just served us off the court. Kudos to those guys, and they brought a ton of pressure and served the ball really well, and they're playing some pretty high level ball. They came off a win against Loyola as well at the same time, and so and Joe's doing a nice job with that group. And yeah, I think, like I said before, the MIVA is going to be a grind, and we're not healthy right now, and there's no excuses. But we're kind of down a few guys and got to figure it out. And when you're in that position, that's not a reason not to play at the level of volleyball you want to play at. So a lot of compliment to both those programs and how they're doing things.
So a question for all you coaches, though, because I know, like, just from looking at lineups have been put out this last week and some personal conversations I've had with other coaching staffs, there is like a flu bug, illness bug that's hitting people to a point where people are getting hospitalized. And of course, there's these ankle sprains, sore backs already, but it's not just one or two, it's 5 or 6 guys on a squad that are being affected. What does a coach do to manage these lineups, and how do you get some that works and clicks?
Well,
Feel free to
you
jump
roll
in.
the dice sometimes and it works out really well, or you roll the dice and you get obliterated. That's the other part of it. Just so you guys know, do you know what I mean? So that's exactly what we were out 3 starters against Lindenwood. Do you know what I mean? And so, like, yeah, it's what happens. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yep.
well, and not so much, Dan, because it's about so much, but the 18-man roster limit, you have all these injuries going on and sickness going on, man, it can get real crazy real fast if you're not careful. So, yeah, it's some teams are a little bit more They got a little bit more depth, which they can sustain some of these things a little bit more. And other teams, they're not so deep. And all of a sudden, you throw a couple new kids in there, and you're like, okay, we see them in practice, they can do some things. Let's see how they do it when the bright lights are on. And yeah, Dan's right. Sometimes you look like a genius, and other times you just like, okay, we'll retool it. See if we can figure it out next week.
Yep.
I would always say the West, and this is over years of experience, but like your upper West Coast teams, the upper level ones, always had a little bit more depth. They'd get into their third, fourth guy, and they're pretty talented. You know what I mean? And then you would get probably Midwest, East Coast, and a lot of those teams don't have as much depth. Now there's more kids playing, so I do think you see a little bit more depth with some of those other teams, but. And then, like Jay said, you throw the 18 man, you better hope your depth pretty good, pretty quick. Do you know what I mean? And so, but that's always been kind of like that, just from a standpoint of, if I'm recruiting a guy that's pretty talented, he may walk on to a UCLA, and I'm gonna have to spend a lot of money on him. And that's just how it goes. That's how the recruiting process is. That's how teams kind of get built. But the other thing that you throw into this is the international thing. Now you got the international guy taking a couple spots, the American kid really looking for a spot, and the roster limit of 18. It's not surprising some of the top 10 teams that they're going to have some pretty good depth pretty quick if they're functioning like that. So,
Yeah, in our match against USC, SC went to their third opposite at one point. I mean, we were in the fourth set. I think they were on their third guy, just to talk about some of that depth that Dan's talking about. But I think the thing that people need to understand, and I think we mention this all the time, but understanding the challenge in which some of these student athletes deal with playing back-to-back nights, taking 50 swings one night and then another 60 the next. And the guys who are able to do that and produce week after week, it is one hell of a skill. I mean, my assistant and I talk about it all the time. Your best skill is availability, right? The best ability is availability. And being able to compete at this level for, week in and week out is incredibly challenging. And guys like these 7-footers, Parker Tompkinson, Wes Smith, you see their body taking physical tolls and them having to miss a lot of time. And that changes USC, right? Like they don't have the same performance without some of their top guys.
Yeah, and it always balances out, and it's different times of the year for everyone. And like right now, Dan's going through it with some injuries and different things, and I'm sure a lot of other teams have different things we don't know about as well, that maybe aren't as prevalent. But it's the players who are able to do it consistently throughout the course of the year are the ones who have done it over time. So especially when you see new starters in a lineup, they're probably going to have some hiccups along the way, whether it be just a performance dip to a sickness, an injury. It's really hard to sustain it over the length of almost a 5 month long season, for anyone if it's their first time starting. The volume, the load, the pressure, the impact, the overall stress, it really can take a toll on an individual and a group. And like even for us, from our perspective, it affected us in a weird way this week because you're so like go, 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 go when it's matches, 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 and then we're off, and then boom, one guy's out, one guy's out, one guy's out. And it's like, yep, like now's the chance for us to rest and get healthier in these environments and kind of do that because when you're traveling, you're usually sharing a hotel room. So if you get one guy sick, probably the other guy's going to get sick. And then you're on an airplane, you're probably all packed into nice confined space there. So it goes through the team at some point. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
Yeah, and the younger guys, especially with the swing loads and the jump counts that they're doing, they're not used to what it looks and feels like. The veterans, if you will, they kind of been through it a little bit, so they understand what it feels like to take 50 swings one night and 50 swings another night, and then they know how to manage that load throughout the course of the week. But the young guys, they're not used to it yet, and you're going to see probably a handful across the country of the younger players, the freshmen and sophomores who maybe aren't as experienced. They're going to get to a moment in the season where they're like, man, my shoulder just does not have the same pop that it used to have. And it's pretty much par for the course.
Yeah. Well, I think, Theo, you have to jump off here in a few moments, but I want to have you pick our first eye-catching match of the week, and then you can take off and we'll discuss it also.
Sure. There were a bunch of really good matches, man. I don't know. I was stuck on the Lindenwood and Lewis match a little bit. And I know we talked about it a little bit, and
We haven't thrown salt yet.
well, and not even throwing salt. Like obviously, like Dan's down a couple of guys, but I think the credit that Lindenwood deserves is tremendous, and what they're doing, and the level of volleyball that they're playing, and really Zach Solomon, he's running a great offense, man. I'm telling you, I think that they are one of the most triple block resistant teams I've ever seen in the grand scheme of how fast they go from where they go. 25 feet off the net, Zach is still going tempo balls to the pin. And to locate it the way he does has been pretty damn impressive to watch him do it. And so, yeah, I think that team is doing some great things, man, between Brendan and Luke Kraft. And I mean, obviously they got the transfer. And so that team is really talented, man. And it'd be interesting to see how they shake out the MIVA and where they end up. I don't think in the rankings they've been given the respect that they deserve. But I think that after a couple of wins this week, it'd be interesting to see where they kind of shake up.
There we go. All right, panel, your turn. Talking on Theo's pick for the match, eye-catching match.
Well, Lindenwood's the hot team at the moment, right? McKendree was a couple of weeks ago, and earlier in the year, everybody's talking about Long Beach as being a hot team. And granted, they're always hot, but right now, Lindenwood's the hot team. And Joe and Mike are doing a great job of training those guys up, and they got some players in that gym who know how to play at a high level. And they're Dan's. I know Dan is looking at the MIVA this year, and it's just a toss up. I mean, you've got a handful of teams that all could conceivably win that conference. And the challenge is going to be, when does Loyola get their starting setter back, because he obviously makes that engine run a little bit better, a little bit different than when the backup's in there. But I'm looking at the way that the whole 12-team bracket thing is shaken down, and my thought process is, obviously with the 7 conferences all getting their AQs, I still believe firmly the Big West will get 2 at larges. The MPSF will get 2 at larges. I think the MIVA is going to get the last at large, because those teams are all super solid. And so it's just going to be interesting to see which 2 final teams are left standing in that MIVA, because they're already in conference. They've started conference already last weekend, and most of us are starting this week. And I think the Big West starts when's the finals? May 12th or something like that. The NCAA finals. I think Big West starts their conference play May 1st, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh no, they're still April 23rd through 25th though.
For the NCAA play-ins, or the Big West conference.
The Big West men's volleyball championship.
Yeah, they start their conference play April 1st. It's just so late in the game. They aren't even going to be able to see who's going to shake down. But the MIVA is going to be so battle tested with conference play by then. I can't wait to see who's left standing at the last night playing against each other in that conference. There's so many good teams.
That's a great take, Jay.
There we go. Brad, anything to add?
No, I think Luthane last season had a lot of really good nights, and he's really been doing it, similar to what we were just talking about, where it was a little more inconsistent last season, but some moments where he was a stud, and now he's pretty much been a stud all year long. And then you pair in Caden Whiteside, who I think is really kind of helping them go and really getting them on track as a redshirt freshman outside hitter. So someone that they've been developing in their gym this past year, and then to be able to step in and perform alongside Luthane is massive. And then Luke Kraft is transfer from Maryville, so another program that's been doing a lot of good things, and he's stepped in there and hasn't skipped a beat with Zach Solomon kind of dishing the rock and spreading it out. So yeah, Lindenwood's playing really well, and I think it was some crazy stat against Dan. Sorry, Dan. But they basically 1 out of 5 serves with an ace, more or less. It was like a 19% ace rate. So they're bringing some pace from the end line.
That's why they make adult beverages.
That's what's in Theo's cooler behind him.
That's Gatorade, Rob.
Gotcha. Well, if you're leaving, you want to pick your player of the week?
Yeah, I do.
Players,
before I jump, I'm going to make this really tough for you guys, because I'm going to go ahead and take Zach Rama, 21 kills in the reverse sweep over Long Beach, hit 341, and honestly, moments in that match where he just absolutely took over and grabbed the team, put him on his back, and playing some great volleyball. So Zach Rama's number one. And the other guy I got to give it to is Cole Harkey because we had no answers. 14 kills against us, hit 667. And just he's playing international volleyball while we were playing college volleyball. So it was pretty fun.
Excellent. All right, Theo,
All
we'll
right,
catch you
fellas.
next week. Thanks for your contributions. Good luck this week.
Great to see you guys.
Theo's gone, but the show's not over quite yet because we have plenty of volleyball to cover. So with that, eye-catching matches of the week, let's go to Brad. He seems a little quieter today because he had the week off, so he should be relaxed and in his Zen mode.
I think we got to go to UCLA Long Beach, right? The biggest
All
match,
right.
1 versus 2. And we first 2 sets were really dominated by Long Beach State, and especially that first set, they were just serving Long Beach, or Long Beach was serving UCLA off the court. And then as they got late into set 2, UCLA made a few errors, and UCLA couldn't quite handle. Kandev had 2 serves back to back that gave them a good spread going through set 2, and then get to set 3. I think we were at like 21 all, 22 all, and then UCLA just barely found a way to win some long rallies and sneak out of that third set. And watching it live, I thought, oh, like Long Beach they just got unlucky there. They're probably going to win in 4. And by live, I mean watching the stream live, Rob, not
Gotcha.
going there in person. Uh, and then UCLA really turned it up, and I thought, like Theo mentioned, Rama took over. I thought those first 2 sets, really, Rama was really struggling and wasn't quite playing like his normal self. And Sean Kelly was really kind of keeping them steady, along with Thorne and Rowan. And then you saw Chris Conley start to pick it up as a libero, passing really well and defending against the opposite and frustrating both the Long Beach's opposites. And then the match finishes, just late in the 4th and 5th set, a few untimely errors from Long Beach, from the end line and as attackers. And UCLA was able to pull it out. I thought it was a good sign of resolve from them and showed why they're the number 1 team in the nation.
Yep. All right, panel. Thoughts on UCLA Long Beach State?
Was this the fill-in match from the tournament debacle?
No, this that actually they put a graphic out. They're going to have that fill-in match at Pauley on the 19th. So
who's that?
This was supposed to happen anyways.
Right. I was just curious. I was wondering if they played again. That's what I was asking. The UCLA Long Beach, do they play again? Is that later on?
Yes, they do.
Yep,
Yeah.
It'll be that Friday, which I got to announce just be a special episode from last week's episode on the comments and Volley Talk, which always appreciate. I had mentioned that Milan and Hawks commute to LA at this time in the morning. They want me to do a episode with them, with Milan driving up with Hawks to LA to work. So I'm going to see if I can get that done.
Are you going to make a dance like emoji thing that I keep seeing with like Hawks? I just check it the other way. We could put you in that too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway,
AI dancing Hawks.
Phenomenal volleyball. That's why I said if you get to watch them play again, it'll be fantastic. I mean, I thought Brad broke it down pretty good, but just man, it's fun to watch. It's high level stuff. So
I'll go this direction. First of all, let's give a little kudos and congrats to our boy Matt Worley, who is now the head coach at UCLA for the women's team. I remember seeing him at the match in the crowd wearing a UCLA sweatshirt, and I thought that's odd. I wonder why. And then it hit me, and I was like, So give that kid a little kudos. A well-deserved job. I'm sure he's going to do great things.
Friend of the show, Matt Worley.
I sent him a text message and said, hey, congrats on the new job. Next time I'm out there in California, if you're not out recruiting, or you're not out schmoozing the boosters, or you're not out paying some player $750,000 to come play for you at UCLA, let's go catch up and grab dinner. And he wrote back with a big laugh emoji because he knows that that's the game he's getting into. So it'll be interesting to hear. But anyways, my thought process on that match, the first 2 sets, it looked like UCLA had never played yet this year. They just looked out of rhythm. Their service was way off. Zach Rama, as good as he is, didn't look as crisp. Rowan was putting up some good sets, but it just didn't look like they were connecting very well. And then all of a sudden they took that third and okay, maybe there's a little fight in them. And then it looked like Long Beach just sputtered and didn't quite have the gas left in the tank to finish the job. And great crowd at Long Beach. They sold the place out. And just a lot of fun for the fans to get involved, because you saw at the end of the second set, in the middle of the third set, the UCLA fans kind of sputtered out a little bit and got tired and maybe weren't as enthusiastic. But then as the match wore on, they got back into it, and it was just a lot of fun to watch. It wasn't the best high level across the board volleyball, but it was really good moments of volleyball for both teams. And it's going to be exciting to see what they do the next time they see each other. And I would not be surprised to see those two teams in the bracket at the end of the year, and its potential that they could play against each other again. So the old rubber match potential is out there. But yeah, that was the match of the week to watch.
And they had a great recognition night for Alan Knight, correct? Right.
Yep.
So I think just a fantastic person, fantastic coach. So really classy for them to do that before that match as well. Do you know what I mean? So.
You're on mute, Rob. You're on mute.
All right.
You're on
I'm
mute.
not a professional podcaster, so I muted myself and didn't add my piece in. But they had pictures of Alan in his avant-garde outfit, black coat, black slacks, black t-shirt. These artistic photos are coming out with, him looking like the change poster for Obama, but all black and white. So, but it's an amazing accomplishment. It is like, it's so great to see Alan back out there, who's still in the game. And I'm sure he's got a lot of influence on his disciple there, Nick McRae, and the rest of the crew there. But it was a fantastic night, a sellout crowd, a post-Moni era sellout, always good to have, and excellent play. But regarding the play, what I've noticed about UCLA this year is teams will hang tight with them. At first point, they did the same thing. Teams are close to either beating them or they just gave them a good fight. But as Jay pointed out, this match against UCLA, they just came out kind of flat. If you look at the scores, it's reflective of they just weren't dialed in, but then all of a sudden you saw something click in. And that was Zach Rama in the third set, because he was doing that at first point in the previous matches. He was like, oh, I'll get like maybe 2 or 3 kills in sets 1 and 2, and then he'll light it up for, 8, 9, 10 for the rest of the way.
Well, let's give Zach Rama, you get credit. I'm not taking any of the credit away from you, but let's give the real credit where the credit is due. To Andrew Rowan. The guy figured out this is going to be my guy I'm going to ride for the rest of the night, and he just put up hittable ball after hittable ball after hittable ball. I'm sure the coaching staff would agree. You could have fantastic hitters, and with an average setter, it's not really it doesn't run efficiently. But you could have mediocre hitters and have a fantastic setter, and your engine is humming on all cylinders. And when you put it both together with a great setter and great players, man, it's next level stuff. So I got to give a lot of credit to Rowan. I thought he did a great job.
Well, his clutch performance. So if you notice the last 2 points of set number 5, 13-10, I believe it was, Rowan goes up, stuff block. Your setter is fired up. He gets the big point to get it to match point, and then Rama seals the deal. It is, yeah. And you can see the crowd in there, the UCLA crowd. It was one of the most emotional matches. There's a family with, probably a daughter crying with mom and dad because they were down 0-2 with a reverse sweep. But Rowan does find a way. He has that X factor, the sixth sense that is able to push him over the top.
Yeah.
So anything else on UCLA Long Beach State?
No, but I got a pick for the week. So is it my turn?
Okay.
Is it my turn yet?
We're going to wait till the end for the rest of you guys here because you want to see the battle here.
Rob, are you hearing me? Am I available to go here?
Yeah, if you'd like to go. Let's change it. Go ahead and go. Am I off?
You're sputtering out, man.
All right, Jay, go.
I'm going to go with my pick. I'm going to give a little love here. My old boss, Pav, Penn State, 700th win as a head coach this past weekend with the 2-3-0 sweeps against St. Francis. The home and away series that is always fun to be a part of. It's a short drive for both programs. Pav, deservingly so, and I'm sure he would admit to this, that 700 wins is great, but it just means how old you are and how long you've been a part of the game. But he's done one hell of a job with that program to get to that 700 wins. You don't just get it because you're in it long. You got to win. And I just want to give a little love out to them. Probably maybe the last time you see them play each other in a season, because obviously St. Francis dropping down to D3. I'm not sure that they'll be back on the schedule moving forward in the season, but hats off to Pav and his crew. 700 wins, heck of an accomplishment.
Cool. Hey, I'm gonna edit this. Should I restart Zoom? Am I getting that choppy?
You did in that moment, but you're not choppy now.
You're not choppy now.
Yeah, you're good
All right,
now.
then I'll just edit this part out. Okay. Other matches, eye-catching matches, rest of the panel.
Well, I'm going to want to say congrats to Pav and staff. I think Pav is one of the best, so it's awesome to see him get 700, and we'll see if me and Jay can last that long. So, mine would be the Jersey battle. You got NJIT versus Princeton, and Victor Nowak, 29 kills, hitting 339. And so, great win, and for Danny and his group, and to win the Jersey battle. And so, but yeah, just two teams I think that are both getting better. So.
Yeah, a matchup
right.
that I think we're gonna look back at when EIVA plays finishing up, and that could end up being a tiebreaker for second or third place, or maybe first or second place even.
Yeah.
Well, with that, the one of the things that really stuck out this last week for me, and wait, are we done with our topics then? The eye-catching matches? All right.
Yep.
So, hopefully I didn't close out my notes here. Just the cold.
Guys, hey,
bringing me
I think
down.
somebody should take over as the host of this episode, because Rob is as bad as me right now. Do you know what I mean? It's so
And listen, Rob's, it's 68 degrees in Southern California. Everything's going.
Oh, he's like he's like those lizards in Florida right now that are frozen and can't move. Do you know what I mean?
All right. If you can hear me, this is the one of the things that caught my eye this week, and it's more of a news item. But the AVCA doing their first ever Player of the Year watch. Thoughts? Obviously,
Great.
Dan, you're part of the.
Yeah, I think it's good. The more exposure we get for the kids and more opportunities. I think I think I said, hey, there's not a libero on there, but outside of that, I think tough to take any of those guys off because they're all phenomenal players, and so I think it's a great thing that the AVCA is doing.
Yeah, I mean, look, college football does a Heisman watch early in the season. Why not do something like that for us? So that's good. Good job, AVCA.
Yeah, it'll be fun to track it, and obviously as the year goes on, it'll probably shrink down more and more and more, and get to hopefully like a finalist group of 4 or 5 or 6 guys.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Dan, you did mention something interesting. There are no Libros on there, and I feel like there's probably a good 4 to like 8 of them I can think off the top of my head across conferences that could be on that list.
Yeah. There are 4 to 8. There are 4 to 8 of liberos that are super talented, and another 4 to 8 right after that are super talented as well. But nobody's point scoring taking over the game at the level of a couple of these other guys, or running an offense at the level of these guys, or that I think are separations from the liberos. Like, there have been a couple liberos over the course of the past 20 years where I'd like, man, that guy is a game changer. And I'm not saying none of our liberos that are playing right now aren't super talented, but do they outweigh the setter or the point scoring guys that are on the list? And I don't think they do. So
I agree
you
with
just put a
that.
pro guy out there because you feel like you have to, because sometimes that we feel like that's the piece where it's like, hey, you got a first team All-American group, you have to have a libero. And maybe there are years where there should be 2, and maybe there's years where there should be none, but there's always that rule. So if you're going to say, hey, on the watch list, you have to have a libero, and I'm not sure I agree with that.
I agree with that sentiment 100%, Dan. As much as they impact the game and can help your team be successful, just look at the Heisman Trophy. I mean, how many non-quarterbacks and non-running backs have won that trophy over the years? And I know there's been a couple here and there, but the reality is those are the 2 most dominant positions in football. So you give those 2 really the love that they deserve. But there are always other players that are just as impactful and just as valuable, but they just don't have the notoriety that those two positions do. And as much as, you look at some of the liberos over the years, the Shojis and the Mason Briggs and all those other kids that have been very huge parts of their success for their teams, the point scorers and the setters are usually the two that are going to get the majority of the love. And so I think that's why you see it. And I agree with Dan. If they force us to put somebody on there, okay, you can put somebody on there, but I'm not sure that that's the direction that most people would want to go.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like
Right.
any liberos are emailing the ABCA and be like, "How could you have left me off this list?" Like I think all liberos know what they're signing up for by being in the libero role.
All right. Well, the other topic is a one that we've already kind of talked a little bit about it, but new dogs in the Miva fight. What's happening in the Miva has been fun to watch. Unfortunately, for some on the screen, not so much at this early start, but it's really it's a hot battle in there. Yeah, you
Yeah,
start
but
mentioning
when your
Lindenwood, who's a
topic
hot team.
when your topic goes new dogs, what do you mean? I always say this to you.
It's
I'm
just
gonna make it, yeah, because like McKinley just won regular season last year, so they're not new. And Lindenwood was in the MIVA final 2 years ago. And so like,
all
are you
right.
like, so in my headspace, it's like we have a tendency to say Miva and Lindenwood shouldn't belong in kind of this conversation with Ball State, Ohio State, Lewis, Loyola, where I think they deserve to be in the conversation just as consistently. You know what I mean? I know Northern Kentucky's new, so they're off the ground, and Queens has a new coach, which I think they're trying to figure things out. So I don't know, like I sound like I take offense, so I don't mean to come off like that, but I think the part of me is just the great thing for us is I think the MIVA is showing some depth, which
Yeah.
consistently over the past few years, it's like you're not going to go in and play whatever team that you might think B5 or 6. It's going to be a dogfight, and maybe it wasn't always like that 10 years ago. So I think the depth of the league now is good, and it's good for the overall sport. So
Yeah, 100% agree with Dan. And Rob, we all know what you mean by this. It's not a slam against you
I'm
on what
gonna
you're
go cry in the corner. I got some tissues right here, so I'm gonna
but
use this.
but Dan's 100% correct, which is why earlier my statement was I think the Big West and the MPSF are going to get the two at larges, but I think that MIVA is going to get the last at large, and they're deservingly so. They're a conference that has proven to be very solid top to bottom. Those teams are going out and beating other teams around the country, most notably on the West Coast, and starting to assert themselves as an absolute juggernaut of a schedule to have to play every year. So kudos to them, but kudos to their administrations and kudos to their coaches for putting in the work, and supporting their teams. It's not like they just started yesterday and all of a sudden they're these good teams. These are teams that have been built over time. They're sustaining their recruiting practices and bringing in quality kids, and their coaches are, for the most part, there's some younger coaches in there that are really just they're taking it and saying, hey, we're going to make this program known and do what they can, and that's awesome. Good for them.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think it just what I was looking for was the battle for the number one spot. It just seems like these teams are really pressing the top spot. And I was like, oh, there's Ohio State, there's Lewis, there's Loyola, Ball State, then you got McKendree, Lindenwood. I'm like, I feel like the conversation is more these teams are battling for that top spot.
It's going to change, and but here's why it's changing. So if you were talking, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong with this, but if you were talking in the beginning of January, just on paper, who we think, I think you would include Lewis, Loyola, Ohio State, Ball State, and those would be your top dogs. Now you look at it, and McKendree and Lindenwood are in that conversation with those top teams. Now it's going to be all about sustainability of health and everything moving down the board. But those are the teams right now that could easily win the conference. There's 7 teams that are that good that could win the conference. And that's crazy. That's crazy. That's MPSF level from way back in the day when you had 7 teams that legitimately could win the conference.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
in the MIVA, my perspective is going to be not so much of like, hey, who's going to win the regular season title, but it's what always seems to be the case is it's going to be super competitive. There's going to be ebbs and flows of the year, but who's going to be at their best? on that MIVA postseason week or weekends now, right? And that's really where the difference is going to be, because I think just looking at as you zoom out on the MIVA and the NCAA men's volleyball landscape as a whole, where we talk about the at-large bids, where it's like, okay, they got to stop somewhere. And right now in the MIVA, it's probably, if the season ended, it would be a conversation between Loyola and Ball State for maybe one of those last at-large bids, right? So then for the other 5 teams that all are capable of winning it all, they're focused on how are we at our best when we're getting into the MIVA quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals from that point on. I think it'll get really interesting as teams start upsetting Loyola or Ball State more consistently, like we saw with Lindenwood, if that does end up happening. But yeah, I think that's the perspective of the kind of the jockeying for position to prepare for that MIVA postseason.
Yeah. Great discussion. One more topic. Happen to be going through, and just my general sense of the last few years, the Big West has been kind of knocking it to the MPSF. So I had to go in and look at this season so far. It is 10 matches won for the MPSF, 10 for the Big West, with just 2 more weeks of the non-conference season to go. There's only 3 undefeated teams remaining in the top 20. 2 in the MPSF, and UCLA and USC and UCI. That means after this week, they'll be potentially down to 1. So competition, MPSF versus Big West. Who is flexing their muscles right now?
They both are. Historically, that was one conference, so they both are, and we knew they were strong. They've always been strong. It's just a matter of who's going to get hot at the right moments. I think the thing that should be discussed is you have the Long Beaches, the Hawaiis, the UCIs, but don't count out the Northridges, the San Diegos, and sooner or later Santa Barbara is going to start to figure out again. They seem to be a little bit of a down in the dumps, so to speak, in the conference rankings. But, the San Diego and Northridge, they're good teams. I mean, they just took USC to 5 and almost beat them at home. That's a huge deal. And, it's just a matter of when those 2 programs start to recruit. And I say this with peace and love, the absolute quality across the board that the UCIs, the Hawaiis, and the Long Beaches tend to pull in. But now you see them starting to get those players coming to their programs more regular. Man, that conference is nasty.
Yeah. Anything to add, Dan?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the Big West dominated for a little bit. You've seen some more parity this year between the 2 conferences. And then kind of the D2s that have added in and where their growth comes over the next few years. You know what I mean? With, all of those and, and how long does it take and where do they get? And so I think, does D2 break off so it never happens because you have a Division II MPSF and a D1 MPSF? That'll be an interesting thing too, because how many D2s are there now? 4, 5?
In the MPSF,
In the MPSF?
I think it's 4 or 5, yeah.
Concordia, Jessup, Vanguard,
Menlo,
Merced.
Yeah.
So 5. Yeah, so you're pretty close there. But this is a totally new topic. I've heard of some rumblings of a couple of schools going a different direction out of the MPSF or out of the Big West. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I don't have any facts to that.
WCC.
Start some rumors. You know what I mean?
So I think back to Rob's original question of MPSF, Big West, and I think you kind of have the top 3 in each, right? And then the difference right now, or the slight favor, would go towards BYU being that next out of the grouping of teams, right? And where it's BYU beat us twice, went on the road and beat Santa Barbara twice. So I think they're kind of that next grouping up where that's been, whether it's BYU, whether that's Northridge, whether that's Santa Barbara or Stanford. So I think right now that's where the MPSF has the edge, because those top 3 teams in each conference, I think if they're playing, it's going to be a match that's going to be really entertaining as well. And then you even saw Northridge can go and push USC to 5, and I thought they had some opportunities to win that as well. So that's going to be a consistent theme regardless. But I'd give a slight edge to the MPSF in that sense. But yeah, I think the Big West is going to be just fine, as Rob is now gone.
And guess who the host is?
Oh gosh.
Now the games begin.
It's great.
Well, no,
It's not even being recorded. Oh, or it is still recorded. So great. Hey, I gotta go. I got a meeting at 11. So,
all right. Well, you give us your player of the week and a match or two before we go.
I think I want to see how Lindenwood and McHenry do. They have the Ball State Fort Wayne trip. So Ball State getting kind of a big test on a conference weekend, and seeing kind of where Fort Wayne is with a couple of our other conference teams. We haven't talked much about Fort Wayne yet, so it'll be kind of good to see where those guys are at. And so, and then probably I want to say the Lindenwood Lindenwood group. I mean, they're two big wins for them. Do you know what I mean? And so, like, you say one specific player, but Brennan was good. Kraft was good. They had a couple other guys I thought they were instrumental. Do you know what I mean? So, Caden did some nice things. I think maybe if you put a picture of the Lindenwood group, this guy's pretty impactful group. Do you know what I mean? So those would be mine. So
I think that's fair. All right, my friend. We'll see you next week.
See you guys. All right.
See you, Dan.
All right, Brad. It's you and me.
All right.
Now, while the cat's away, the mice will play.
Would have never thought we'd end up here, Jay.
That's right. That's right. Who would have thunk that we would be the only two remaining standing? All right. Listen, I'm gonna be kind and gentle. I'm gonna give you the player of the week that you want, but I'm gonna go first on the matches of the week.
Deal.
Okay, so you go on your player of the week.
Okay, I got two.
No. You only get one because you're probably gonna mention three.
Rob texted me. I got one from Rob too. Yeah.
Okay.
I got Victor Nowak from NJIT, 29 kills, 330, and 33 points in the win over Princeton. And then Cameron Costi, setter UC Irvine, 34 assists and 40 assists over the weekend of play for them.
Good ones. Victor Nowak is a good call. He was one of my guys on my list. All right, I'm going to go with mine. Jordan Lucas, outside hitter for Northridge, first night against USC, had 30 kills, hitting 509. Second night had 7 kills, hit 333. The kid hit 420 for the weekend with 37 kills. Great on you, kid. Great job. I know it wasn't a win on either night, but you deserve the love. That was a really, really good performance by you. So hope
big time performance.
Yep. All right, now we're going to the matches of the week, and I'm going first on this one. I'm definitely going to be watching McKendree and Ball State because I want to see what McKendree can do and come back. The Lewis Loyola series is always fun to watch.
Yep.
I know both teams right now are kind of, licking their wounds a little bit, but there's still going to be a dogfight. However, my number one match of the week, sponsored by Pothole Lovers of America, is Lindenwood at Ball State. That is going to be a match that should glue some eyes because Ball State has got arguably one of the best outside hitters in the country, and Lindenwood is currently the hot team in the country with a lot of good players. I can't wait to see how this match goes out. So there's my picks of the week.
Yeah, a good weekend for the MIVA for sure. With those different matchups, I had all of those marked. I thought your potholes were in reference to the UC Irvine USC matchup and your classic travel up the freeway.
There's no potholes in Southern California.
I got USC UCI. Last year gave us one of the best matches of the season, and I think with both teams, UCI really battle tested, USC slowly getting into it, and now after playing Northridge and Santa Barbara, starting to get into the thick of their season. So it'll be really interesting to see that where UCI, I think, might be the most consistent team we've seen through the different competitions and through so many different things, to where USC we don't quite know exactly what we're going to get from them fully. And then some other cool matchups. We got University of Hawaii, Stanford, another good matchup from last year. So we'll get to see them get to compete and another good test for Stanford. Hopefully they're getting healthier. First point challenge, they weren't super healthy at the setting position. Is it
at Stanford or at Hawaii?
It's a great question.
Because that will dictate to me kind of how
it is at Stanford.
At Stanford, that's going to be a test for Hawaii then, because off the rock they tend to not have as great results, but it's at Stanford, who is, kind of figuring some things out right now. We'll see if they can come back and figure it out against Hawaii. So who else you got? Anybody else?
Lastly, I got the surfing rivalry, Santa Barbara versus Pepperdine.
Nice.
So that'll be a really good matchup. And they play every year. Obviously, they do a lot of fall preseason stuff together. So getting to see them compete. And Santa Barbara hasn't quite gotten it all together yet, but I think we all know that with their pieces, they could go and get anyone on any given day.
Yep, absolutely. My last one that I'll just throw in there is Penn State Princeton. Princeton is maybe not quite the team they were last year. Be interested to see if they could take one from Penn State, who is seeming to have figured out a couple lineups that might work in their favor. So that's the last one that I'll throw in there. Rob, welcome back.
I know. I wanted to give up the show. I figured you guys do way better than I do, so why not just jump off? So, you guys, I imagine it sounds like you're picking your matches to watch for the week 6,
Did it all.
7. Did it all. But I didn't get the players. You have to do it again so I can create the graphic, though.
Oh, you didn't get the players that you picked? Or is it not recording while you were gone?
Don't know. I'm assuming it still showed recording. I guess I can go back and listen to it. So
we had Dan picked the Lindenwood team.
Yep.
After the 2 wins.
All Lindenwood players?
Yeah. And then I got Victor Nowak and Cameron Costi were my 2.
And then mine was Jordan Lucas at Northridge.
All right. Well, I guess this is where we end it. I jump back on, just say goodbye. So that concludes week 6 episode 293 of College Volleyball Weekly Men's Top 10. Already departed us, but only from the screen, are Theo Edwards of CSUN and Dan Friend of Lewis. But on screen, Jay Hossick, George Mason, Brad Rothstadter of UC San Diego. Best of luck this week, gentlemen, and look forward to seeing you guys play this week.
Thanks for listening to College Volleyball Weekly. Be sure to follow Rob Aspero at the Rob on the Mic on Instagram and at Rob on the Mic on Twitter.